Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar for Endian Management Center. My name is Ben Silverstein, I'm Product Manager for Endian. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So hopefully everybody can see the presentation here. We can share these with you after the webinar as well if you're interested. But primarily what we're going to be doing today is a lot of live demonstration to show you the new solution that we're calling Endian Management Center. So Endian Management Center is our true centralized management solution, a new way to manage all of your Endian appliances around the world. It provides a simple, centralized, powerful tool for IoT and everything else that requires the ability to manage all of your solutions from a single location in terms of their configurations. So for those of you not familiar with the mantra of Endian, the core principles of Endian, Endian is our goal is to provide a secure platform that connects people, things, and while doing so simplifies the digitalization of businesses. So we connect things together and make it easy for people to use those connections to be able to do the things that they need to do that are part of their job responsibilities. So the three kind of primary principles of Endian are connect, secure, and simplify. So very simple, but also very powerful when you put everything together. In terms of the solution sets that we offer, for those who are not familiar, we basically have three categories of product lines. We have the original UTM, what we call UTM security gateways, the all-in-one network security appliances. These have been around since the beginning of Endian, way back in 2003. And lately, we've added two additional lines. One of them is a feature set that kind of grew out of the UTM, which is the hotspot and BYOD management. So we've always had a pretty industry-leading hotspot solution that was built in and included with UTM product line, but we've due to popular demand, we also created a new standalone product line that is just primarily a hotspot and a security solution for hotspot networks. And then probably our newest creation within the last 5-6 years or so, maybe a little longer than that, is our industrial security gateways, the 4i product line. For those of you not familiar with that, it's industrial hardware. It's basically a limited feature set of our UTM. So it's network security without the web and email filtering with a hotspot solution that's built into industrialized hardware appliances. So those are small form factors. They have DIN rail mounts that are compatible with industrial deployments. They're 24 volt DC power. And we even have a version that's a wide temperature. They also have we have two models in there that support 3G, 4G modems that are integrated into the solution as well. So that solution set is built specifically for IoT and industrial networks. And all of these are really built to serve the things that are out there, right? So the devices, the instruments, machines, machinery, endpoints, all of those things can be connected using these product lines. So we're going to talk about the newest release, which is the Management Center, which is what everybody wants to see and talk about. So the Management Center is a feature set of the switchboard. So for those of you not familiar, the switchboard is the central server component of the Endian Connect platform, which is what we call our series of solutions that come together to create this really powerful remote access and central management capabilities. So the switchboard is at the heart of the Connect platform. It's the server component, the piece that all of your users and devices out in the field connect to. And so Management Center is a feature that has been added into the switchboard. And the reason for that is because the switchboard provides the foundation upon which we could build the Management Center feature. So because you already use the switchboard to have all of your remote devices out in the field connected to it, there was a lot of logic and it just made sense to integrate the Management Center feature into that product because that connectivity feature was already there. And so what the Management Center does is essentially allow you to create configuration profiles and be able to push them out. And we're going to talk about that here on the next slide. So the core premise of the central management solution may be a little different from other vendor central manager solutions that you've used. So we've actually taken a slightly different approach to try to make it easier. And so our model is essentially that uh, in order to get started using the central manager, you will select a device that we call the Golden Gateway. And this device is a device that you want to basically take the configuration from and replicate that to either all or a subset of your devices that are out in the field. So rather than going into the central manager and creating all of your configuration in that central manager from scratch and then pushing those templates out, we essentially say, basically, let's take a snapshot of this Golden Gateway device that's out in the field that we know already has the configuration on it that we want to use. We can copy that from that device and be able to push it out to as many or all of our devices that are out in the field. And of course, it has all the features that you would expect with a central manager solution in terms of it has a profile history, so you can see the complete history of all the changes that have been made to a given device out in the field. It will automatically revert to the last working configuration through what we call the rollback feature. So in the event you're pushing a change out to devices in the field, and for example, one device loses its internet connection or something like that, the device will stop the migration, roll back to the last known working configuration. And so all of that is kind of handled automatically. There's nothing you have to do. That's just the intelligence that's built into the management center and the client devices. And of course, it will give you a way to manage and synchronize all of your device updates. And so you can actually push out updates from the management center in addition to being able to do that through the Endian network, which you've always had the capability to do. You can now do that as well through management center. And if you look at the big picture of our roadmap for the management center, I believe that our goal is to eventually kind of consume the features of Endian network into the management center and have the management center replace the Endian network solution. But of course, that won't happen until all of the features that we need to be there will be there. And of course, at the bottom here, we talk about the fact that all of the communications were obviously built to be secure. They only use encrypted channels to communicate from the device to the management center. And in the event the device loses its primary connection to the management center, there's a secure failover mechanism in place so that the device can still communicate even if it loses its primary connection to its primary VPN connection to the management center. So in terms of the requirements for the switchboard / management, which includes the management center, so we'll talk about just the management center feature, but obviously to get the management center, you have to have the switchboard as well. So it's all kind of a package deal at this point. Basically, the requirements to run the switchboard / management center solution is, from a hardware standpoint, is the Mercury 100 product or higher. So Mercury 100, Macro 250, 500, 1000, 2500. Any of those appliances or higher can support running the switchboard plus management center. On the software virtual side, a 50 user license or higher is required. And the reason for that is really to coordinate with the licensing on the management center. So from the management center side, you basically would need to then purchase a management center license to go with that the product purchase, whether it's a hardware or software virtual. That product is licensed in what we call nodes. So a node is either a named user on the system, someone who needs to connect to the system using our software client, or it's a connection from the field. Typically, this in the case of the management center is going to be the number of Endian devices you're trying to manage. But if you're using the switchboard for other solutions as well, it's basically any VPN connection from a device in the field. So that could be a hardware appliance of Endian, that can be what we call the Endian agent, which is a lightweight software piece, but we're not going to go into too much detail though. For the management center purposes, it would be the number of Endian devices out in the field that you're trying to manage would equal the number of nodes. That plus the number of users would equal the number of nodes. So some of the highlights of the Connect platform, just as a whole, the ability to communicate and reach any of your endpoint devices out in the field, all kind of seamlessly through this next generation VPN solution that we've created. So if you haven't seen it before, we're going to do a quick demonstration, and I'll try to show you some of the features of the switchboard, Connect platform solution as well, just so if you haven't seen those before, you can see those. We have a feature that we call live maps, which is a visual representation of your devices on a map that you can see all of your devices. You can click on them to get information, or even launch connections to them directly through this live map feature. You can also see who's connected to where, so you can kind of keep tabs on users on your network as well. And then lastly, on here on the right, we have the ability to analyze all of your data components that are out in the field. So we have a module that we call Big Data or Analyze module, which is essentially a module you can add to the switchboard that gives you the switchboard the ability to communicate with the devices in the field to be able to collect data from your instruments. So if you have hundreds of instruments out there that you need to pull data from, or would like to be able to pull data from and organize all that data up to a central location, you can use this feature to do that and create visual views of your data using our dashboard feature. So not only can you kind of securely pull all that data back to a central location, but you can build the logic and the visual representations you need in order for users to be able to kind of see what they need to be able to see from devices in the field. So it gives you the ability to offer kind of real-time predictive maintenance and remote support, remote services, all through this Connect platform solution. So there's a question about the central manager in terms of support for which hardware appliances. So the answer is you will be able to use the central management solution to manage both the UTM and the 4i currently. And then there is support for the hotspot product line that's coming, that will be released here in the near future. So, but out of the box, it will support, I believe, both the UTM and the 4i product line. All right, so we're going to take a look at the demo of the Management Center. So let me kind of switch to the browser here and log into our switchboard. And so for those of you who've seen the switchboard solution, you'll notice basically with the Management Center, there's just a new tab. So this Management tab will show up when you have the Management Center feature enabled. But for those of you who have not seen the switchboard solution, let me just kind of walk you through it real quick. So the first thing you see here is kind of a connection. So you can see we have two devices that are out in the field that are connected. We're going to use these just as our demonstrations for the Management Center. And we have a dashboard over here on the right that shows us how many gateways we have and endpoints and things like that. We also have the live map view that we talked about. So these devices don't have a location set, so you won't see them on the map. But if we set a location for them, then basically they would show up on the map, and we could see those and we could click into them as well. All right, so I'm going to flip back over to the connection tab here. So these devices haven't set up devices to show you kind of all of the things that you could do with the switchboard solution, because these features have been out for quite some time. But just to kind of show you an example, if you click on a device, these are some actions that we've defined. In this case, opening up a SSH connection to the Endian device, or opening up the Endian web interface. And so if I click on, for example, to open the SSH, I'll get a new tab in my browser, and it will create an SSH connection using just the browser. So I don't have to have an SSH client in order to do that. That feature to be able to use the application inside the browser is supported for RDP, VNC, SSH, Telnet, and HTTP, HTTPS applications, obviously. And so from here, we could actually just log in and manage our remote device, and we don't have to worry about having an SSH client loaded up on our machine here. I'm just going to close this connection. And so as we flip through the different tabs, we have the ability to define users and groups of and group them together. And the same thing is true with devices, right? So we can create a device. In this case, is typically going to be an Endian appliance, especially for those of you just using it for the Management Center feature. And we have all the features that we've had available with the Connect platform. So we have Plug and Connect, which is essentially a way for you to deploy large numbers of devices out in the field, all from the central page. Essentially what you do is walk through this little wizard to do the Plug and Connect feature. You'll provide your activation code, and you'll set the basic parameters for the device in terms of the network IP, the Endian network information. And then what will happen is once that device with that activation code is plugged out into the field, into a network with DHCP, the device will automatically fetch its configuration, get online, connect to the switchboard. And in the event that it's being managed through central management, we'll also receive update its profile, and all of that will happen kind of automatically once the device is just connected to the network out in the field. And so you can obviously create all these different group levels and assign access between the users and the groups of devices. And in addition to that, we have the support for applications as well. So you can define which applications users can use to access the endpoint devices that are out in the field. That capability is all kind of defined within a given device. So when you click on a device to edit it, you can tell it which devices are located behind which endpoint devices. So these could be PLCs, HMIs, any kind of devices out, computers, servers, any device that has an IP out in the field that you want users to be able to access can be defined as an endpoint. And then you can assign the permissions based on that. And this is the provisioning feature that I talked about, being able to use the plug and connect feature. And the last part of the switchboard is just the support for organization. So the ability to basically have a multi-tenant solution where you can have a parent organization, a root organization, and sub-organizations within there. So if you need to separate out customers or certain partners of yours, you need to be able to separate them out. You can do that within the switchboard solution as well. So let me jump over to the management tab, and I'll get to your questions as soon as we wrap up the demo here, just so you know. So if you have questions, feel free to ask, and I'll make sure that I get to all of them before we wrap up the webinar. So this is the new central management feature. Essentially, we have two tabs here. Profiles is where we'll define which features of a given Endian device that we want to capture. So we can create multiple profiles. Once a profile is defined, you can basically, so if we click the edit here to kind of look at this example profile, we can see which features we've actually selected to capture the configuration of, right? So we can create different profiles to capture different levels of the configuration. So if we check everything, it will capture almost everything. There are a few features that are not supported with the Central Manager just yet. There's technical reasons for that, but we are working on trying to support all of the major features that are included in Endian. So you can see here we have kind of a subset that's selected for firewall and some of the proxy features as well. And we can give it a name. So once we've defined the profile, the next thing we can do is select the device. So from this tab, basically what we can do is to select our what we call our gold gateway. So remember, this is the device that we want to essentially take that configuration and replicate it. So if you're starting from scratch, what you would do is build up your standard configuration on a given device, and you would designate that device to be your golden gateway. And once that's done, you can capture that configuration by selecting that device as your golden gateway. So in this case, we only have 2 devices to choose from, so we'll leave this device as our golden gateway. Once that's done, you hit Fetch Configuration to basically the Management Center, the switchboard will actually go out and talk to that device and retrieve its configuration and store it on the server. And then at that point, you have a snapshot of that configuration in time, basically. And if we ever wanted to see kind of what has changed with the configuration, we can hit this Show Configuration Repository, which will essentially show us the different changes that have been made using, so you can look at it in different ways. We have kind of a developer mode. This is what we're looking at here, where it's showing you a differentiated file view. So you're looking at a diff between the current version and the previous change that was made. And you can see those changes here. We can also see it in what's called a file tree. So these are all the configuration folders that have the configuration files in them, and you can actually dive into them that way. So you have different ways to kind of look at the changes, and you can flip through the different version repositories to be able to see what changes were made over the history of that device. So that's a really nice feature. At this point, so let's say we've fetched our configuration of our golden gateway, and now we want to essentially push that out to however many devices we have connected to the management center. So in this case, we have a single device that we're going to push that configuration to. We can basically just hit Push Configuration, and the device will take that golden gateway configuration, push it out to this device, and do the configuration on that device out in the field. So some things to note about the operation of the management center. The local configuration of the device will always supersede anything that's pushed from the central manager. The reason for that is simple. We just give preferential treatment to a local configuration change over something that was pushed out through the central manager. So if a user, after this change is applied, if the user goes into the local device and makes a change on the GUI, that change will apply to that device, and will obviously have the priority, so it won't ignore changes that are made out in the field. So that's just something to be aware of. So you see it's giving you some information here about it's upgrading some packages. So that's another nice feature that's built in, that's automatic. So if you're pushing out a configuration change between your golden gateway and your devices out in the field, and your devices out in the field don't have the same software versions or package versions for their applications as the golden gateway, the management center will automatically upgrade all those remote devices out in the field to get them to the same level as the golden gateway before it will then apply those configuration changes. And so the reason for that is obviously as we make updates, we want everything to kind of be on a synchronized platform. And so we don't want to apply a configuration to an old application that may not know how to interpret it, or may cause some kind of deviation in the functioning of the device. So so the device will make sure that it synchronizes all of the applications on the remote devices before it applies the configuration change. So it looks like the device is still doing pulling the configuration over. It will then do its comparison to its local config and apply those changes from the central management from the Golden Gateway. So another features that we can do here on all of our devices is to be able to update the packages. So this checks to see if there are any updates that are available for our appliances. If there are packages available to upgrade and we wish to go ahead and do that, we can also just hit upgrade packages from here, and it will communicate with all of those devices out in the field. So another kind of technical note about the Management Center. So the way in which the Management Center works is essentially utilizing the VPN connection that's already created from the field devices to the switchboard. So the communication is preferred to happen over that VPN connection, obviously, because it's encrypted and secure, always online. And it communicates using essentially a chat protocol called Jabber. And so the status of the Management Center devices can be different from the switchboard. So the switchboard, when you're looking at the dashboard here, you're seeing the status of the VPN connection from the field device to the switchboard when it says online. From the Management Center perspective, when a device says it's online, you're seeing, let me go back to where I was, you're seeing that the device can communicate using the chat protocol over the VPN connection. So if the VPN connection goes down for any reason, what will happen is that the field devices will automatically fail over to communicating with the switchboard, the Management Center, through HTTPS. So that is the kind of secure failover mechanism in the event that the VPN channel goes down. The field devices will still be able to communicate. And so it can be the case that your devices show offline on the switchboard from a VPN standpoint, but are online in the Management Center. And that gives us the ability to kind of always be able to have management functionality with the field devices versus the remote access functionality, which is in the switchboard, which depends only on the ability for the device to be connected through VPN. So it looks like while we were doing all of that, our provisioning finished, and we can see that the provisioning says okay. And if we wanted to, we could go in and look at the configuration change on the client device. So we have options here to take a look at the repository for that device. And again, we have this view where we can flip through the historical changes, and we can see the different views on the right-hand side. So when you look at a given device within the Management Center, there's quite a few things you can look at just to see what's going on. So we have some tabs here. The first tab is a VPN. So this is the VPN connection from the field device to the switchboard. And so if for some reason we wanted to disconnect that device from the VPN, we could do that here. And like I said, the ability to be able to manage that device would still be there. It would just be disconnected from the switchboard. We can another tab. We can look at the packages that are installed. We can on a per device basis, we can check for updates or start an upgrade on a given device. We can view the processes that are running in real time on that device. We can see which jobs from the jobs engine is running. So that's more of a technical thing for those who need to be able to do that. And then we can get hardware information like so a lot of these tabs are familiar for those of you who've used Endian Network. So you can kind of see where we're trying to merge the capabilities that you would normally associate with Endian Network that are also available in the Management Center feature as well. so we can see all of the different informations here. Yeah, so let me get back to there were some questions. So there was a question about, I guess, the requirements for using the switchboard. So essentially, in order to run the switchboard, you need a dedicated Endian appliance to be able to do that. So, so essentially, in order to do that device, the device that runs the switchboard needs to meet some minimum requirements. So if you're using an Endian hardware appliance, you have to use a Mercury 100 or higher. So the switchboard product cannot run, for example, on a 4i device. The server piece cannot run on a 4i device. Now, UTM and 4i devices can be managed from the management center, right? So we're talking about being able to run the management center solution, the switchboard solution with the management center feature. That requires a certain level of UTM product to be able to run that solution. So the solution actually runs inside of it. So you need to dedicate basically an Endian device. This would be a larger device, typically, that's either in the cloud or in a data center environment that has high availability. Something that's always kind of able to manage all of your devices out in the field. So, so on that note, it's a Mercury 100 or higher from a hardware standpoint, or a software virtual 50 appliance or higher, if you're going to use a software or virtual appliance. But remember, UTM and 4i devices can be managed through the central manager, can be clients of the central manager. The only product I think that's currently not supported is the hotspot solution. There's another question about I guess what VPN are we using? So the management center and the switchboard solution are all built around OpenVPN. That obviously there's a lot of unique features and value add that we've created around that from the GUI and the functionality, but yeah, OpenVPN is at the heart of it. So there's a question about, will it, when using the management center, will it overwrite prior changes in the field if you push a new configuration from the management center? So yes. So the answer is if that feature is in the profile that is pushed out to a device in the field, for example, let's say port forwarding is something that you've selected to be included in a profile, and you've pushed out a new change to devices out in the field. The devices out in the field will then update their configuration to include whatever rules were captured from the Golden Gateway. Now, if the user had some locally created rules previously before that change was pushed, those rules will not be erased. Those rules will be kept. It will just then add the rules that are pushed from the central manager. If the device obviously is blank, not configured, unconfigured device, then it will only receive the changes that were pushed from the central manager. So there's a question about the fact that the device will upgrade applications in order to get it synchronized with the Golden Gateway. Is there ever a scenario where it will downgrade? So yeah, so the answer to that is, I believe, yes. So if in the process of doing the synchronization to the management center, something goes wrong, all of the changes that would have occurred as a result of that change from the management center will be rolled back to the previous, including the application updates. So it's asking, is it possible to create multiple golden gateways for different sub-organizations? So as I understand it today, the management center solution, we are adding the multi-tenancy feature of the switchboard to support the Endian management solution. So as of today, I don't think the multi-tenancy is supported, but that is something that we're going to add very quickly, obviously, because of the fact that the multi-tenancy is there. We're going to add that feature to support that. In terms of being able to create, you can have more than one golden gateway. 4 different profiles, for example. So, if you have 4 different profiles of types of devices that you have out in the field, each of those devices could have its own golden gateway. And then you can then obviously assign client devices that you wish to receive those configurations. Question about how am I able to activate the management tab? So the management tab shows up when the management center feature is enabled. That feature obviously can only be enabled if you have the switchboard and the management center license. So we can talk a little bit more to that. This is a question about talking about the VPN implementation. How does it compare to Cisco, DMVPN, FlexVPN? So I'm not familiar with those specific solutions. Essentially, if we're just talking about from the switchboard side, it's an OpenVPN tunnel connection from the field to the server. When you add the management center feature, the management center feature runs that communication protocol, the secure management communication protocol runs across that VPN tunnel. In the event that the VPN tunnel goes down, the management center feature will fail over to use HTTPS. There is also VPN failover that's built into the switchboard. So for example, you can run 2 VPN server instances on the switchboard, maybe one TCP, one UDP, and have failover between them. So in the event that devices can't communicate over the UDP protocol, they can fail back to TCP or vice versa. There's a question about can I have as many profiles as I want to meet the specific requirements of my customers? Yes. So, I mean, you can have as many profiles as you want. You would create those here. And within each profile, so let me show you. Of course, we only have 2 devices to select from, so you're not going to really get the visual representation of that. Within each profile, we select the golden gateway that we want to participate to kind of be the master. And then we can select which devices are going to participate from there. So I think if we go to the devices tab, you can see which profile they belong to, or you can, for example, change the profile to something else. So if there were other profiles here, we could select other profiles for this device to belong to. All right, I'm going to try to go through all of your questions here, so just bear with me. What protocols or software are required to collect the measurements? So I think you're talking about the analyze feature that we mentioned before. So I'm not going to get into the specific Linux processes that are used because honestly, I don't know the complete set of them. What I do know is that essentially when you use the analyze feature to collect data from the field, there's a piece that runs on the remote device side that's able to both communicate with the equipment on the local network and collect that data, and be able to kind of cache or buffer that data in the event that the network goes down, and is able to then send that data up to the the switchboard with central manager solution to be able to kind of roll that data up to the switchboard and be able to display it and create dashboards. But I don't have the specifics on the protocol software specifically. So currently, there's a question about, I guess, does the solution utilize a mesh or is it a centralized VPN deployment? So it's a centralized VPN deployment. Currently, we don't support a mesh VPN solution to utilize this feature. There's a question about do we have a comparison versus Fortinet? So from a product standpoint, we have product comparisons for Fortinet. You can talk to your local Indian sales rep to get information about that. In terms of the solution, the central manager solution, we don't currently have a comparison for that. I think, for the most part, the switchboard solution, remote access, does not have a parallel on the Fortinet side. The central management solution, obviously, that does exist on the Fortinet side, and I can't speak to how that compares with our Endian management solution. The question about does the Management Center support an HA cluster? So the answer is yes. We will support utilizing or deploying the Management Center server to be able to be utilized in an HA cluster. So there's a question, I guess, about, is there a way to update like custom scripts on boot up or upon uplink changes to be able to manage those files using the Management Center? So I think the answer to that currently is no. But my guess is there's either a way to do it from a custom level, or I know it's something that we're looking at being able to do. But I think currently, if you're creating scripts, that run on the Endian from the command line to run on boot or uplink changes, I don't think that to my knowledge, that information is not captured on the Management Center feature. But it's something I think that we're looking at. There's a question about, I guess, platform support. So in terms of the versions of like which version can UTM version 3.0 be utilized in the Central Manager? I think the answer is from a manual standpoint, yes. If you wish to utilize the plug and connect feature, which we talked about, which is where your device in the field you connect it to a network with DHCP that has internet access, and it just finds its configuration and sets itself up and downloads its profiles and all that stuff. That feature is not supported in previous releases. That feature will only be supported on new releases on the new platform going forward. But from a manual standpoint, there is a way that you can connect a device to the switchboard. So let me show you I don't have my device up and running here, but essentially on all Endian devices now, under the System tab, on the first tab on the left-hand side, there will be a new menu item which is called Connect to Switchboard, and from there you can essentially manually connect your device to the switchboard using the local GUI of the device. And so we are going to add the ability to manually configure devices to the switchboard as well. So it's not just the plug and connect feature. But I think as of now, in order to support the Management Center feature, we are encouraging people to use the plug and connect feature because it's kind of simplifies everything, and it makes everything is included in terms of getting everything connected automatically. So I'm going to switch back over to our presentation here. So we do have some promotional things that we're going to run that include the Management Center feature so I want to kind of show those to you. So this first promotion is basically of something that's available for our certified and primary partners of Endian only. It's an NFR promotional. It's an opportunity basically for certified and primary partners of Endian to be able to get some significant discounts on NFR appliances. And in doing so, they will be able to buy the certain NFR appliances that will come included with the switchboard Connect platform and the Management Center feature. So essentially, if you buy a Mercury 100, Macro 250, a Software Virtual 50, or a Software Virtual 100 NFR appliance, you can see the prices here. This is Euro, but we'll have a US dollar pricing as well for our US dollar partners. You will get the Connect Platform Management Center solution included. So essentially, if you buy a Mercury 100 or a Software Virtual 50, you'll get a 50 node license of the Management Center for 1 year included for free. If you buy a Macro 250 NFR or a Virtual 100 NFR or higher, you will receive a 100 node 1 year license of the Management Center Connect platform. So this is a great opportunity for those who are already at the certified or primary partner levels of Endian to be able to get a feel for the Connect platform. You could potentially use it if you're a reseller You could potentially use it to offer some support services, or just offer it as a value-added service to your customers. And so it's a great opportunity to really get really intimately familiar with the Connect platform features, the Management Center features, and to be able to provide that level of the kind of the value-added services that are in those features, that platform to your customers as well, or to be able to use it internally if that's something you wish to do. The other promotion that we're running is for just resellers of Endian. So anyone who's not a certified or primary but wants to kind of take advantage of this promotional opportunity, there's a different promotion for you, which is basically you'll be required to buy one UTM hardware, software, or virtual that meets the minimum requirements. So that's a Mercury 100 on the hardware, or a software virtual 50 on the software virtual side. And in addition to that, two Mini 10s or two Mini 25s or higher. So any two of the UTM product lines products, and you will get the Connect platform with the Management Center features included. In addition, we will be doing a technical training for the Management Center, the Connect platform plus Management Center, that will be included with your promotion. So once you meet the minimum requirements of the promotion, you will not only get the software, the Connect platform Management Center feature software to run in your UTM security gateway, which you've purchased. You will also be included in the technical training webinar. So essentially, we're going to create a technical training solution called Connect Platform Specialist, which is basically certifying that you are familiar with all of the features and how to use the Connect platform with the Management Center feature. So you will actually be able to achieve that certification by just purchasing this promotion. So those are the two promotional opportunities that we're running for a limited time to kind of encourage people to take a look at the Management Center and this Connect platform as a whole. We think it's provides a tremendous value as it is, but we really felt like that we wanted to help our partners and our customers be able to take advantage of this new release of the Management Center feature, especially because we know it's something that's been highly requested for some time now. And so we're running these two different promotions for both the channel and the reseller customer side as well. So it looks like we have a few more questions, so let me just get back to those, and then we will wrap up. So I think we're at the end here. There's a question about, does the Management Center have an API to communicate with third-party applications? So I think the answer to that is currently that the Management Center feature specifically, I do not believe has an API, but the Connect platform, the switchboard, does have an API for that allows you to be able to basically, if you wanted to, you could create your own client software to integrate into your hardware solution. But in addition to that, if you wanted to essentially like tie your support solution into the switchboard, you can use the API to do that. And I believe that we will be releasing API functionality around the Management Center. It just hasn't happened yet, but it will be something that we will support. Some more questions here. Question about, there was mention of support for an RDP client. Is there any special support for Intel AMT, something I guess like Mesh Commander? I'm not familiar with that, so my guess would be no. Essentially, what you can do is to be able to RDP through the browser. So it's using HTML5 technology to create an RDP session. So if you defined, if you have a bunch of Windows machines that were behind one of your Endian devices out in the field and you wanted to be able to allow users to connect via RDP, they would be able to do that without having to, have their RDP client open or have any RDP client software installed on their local machine. Not sure if that answers your question. Do we have a question about, do we have a specific application to be used to make the connection to the system, like app on mobile devices or only app on? Yeah, so there's two ways you can connect to the switchboard solution in general. One is using the browser, which is what you saw during our demonstration. So that's what we call Connect Web, which is a browser-based. So using the browser, you can view all of the tabs that you can manage the switchboard in the management center. You can, from a remote access standpoint, you can utilize RDP, VNC, SSH, Telnet, HTTP, HTTPS just using a browser without having to have any apps. It's all HTML5, which means that it's all seamlessly able to be accessed on desktops, tablets, mobile devices. So that's Connect Web. Alternatively to that, we have what we call Connect App, which is a full VPN client software solution. I can show you what that looks like here. So let me see if I can just, yeah, so this is the Connect App. So from here, you can make a connection to the switchboard as well. So I can show you what that looks like. So if I sign out here, I can create a connection to, and so this app is a full-blown app. You get network access to resources like you would with a traditional VPN client, which is not something you get with the web browser. And so you have full network access to all of the resources behind a given device. And it is supported on Windows, Mac, and we are soon to, I think, release a Linux client as well. But I know as of right today, it's available for Mac and Linux platforms. And so you can see once you log in, it looks identical to the web interface. The only difference with the app is that, like I said, when you make a connection to a remote device in the field, you can actually get a network connection, so you can access network resources behind a given device. Whereas when you're just using the browser, you can only utilize the browser features that are supported. You can't get network access to devices in the field. So let me keep going here with questions. Asking about, can we send out the promotions? Yes, I believe that we'll be sending those out to everyone who attended the webinar. But if you don't get it, or if you need something, just contact us and we'll send it over to you. It's a question about, do we plan to manage the licenses from the management center? Yes. So as I mentioned before, I think the roadmap has always kind of been to merge the Endian network features with the management center, which will mean that at some point the management center will consume that feature. We'll be able to manage the licenses from there. A question about, does the Endian need to run version 5, or is the Management Center also compatible with version 3? So this switchboard Management Center solution is only available on version 5 or newer of the Endian platform. So obviously, if you're making a new purchase, you'll have that version included. If you're using an existing device, you'll need to make sure that it's something that can run version 5.0 of the Endian, and that's just because there was just it wasn't feasible for us to be able to backport the entire Management Center switchboard solution to run on version 3.0. It's a question about, can the 4i run 5.0? So yes, all new 4i's actually come with 5.0, but you can also upgrade them, devices out in the field. And actually, when you, I think, go through and upgrade, if you just go through Endian Network and upgrade all of your 3.0 devices, they can be upgraded through there to 5.0. If not, you can always re-image them using the disaster recovery keys. Are there any other questions? I know we covered a lot of information today. I appreciate everyone's time and patience on this webinar. Before I guess we wrap it up, if you guys come up with questions after the fact, feel free to email your local sales rep, or you can email me, ben@endian.com. But if you need to reach a salesperson, we have all of that information on our website. We do have and are planning to release more updated information on the Management Center Connect Platform Solutions on our website. So if you haven't seen our website in a while, I encourage you to go check it out. So endian.com. And like I said, we have these promotional opportunities. So I encourage you, those of you who are really interested in pursuing this, to follow up on the promotions and take advantage of those, because they are providing substantial discounts. I mean, substantial, it's very substantial discounts. So I would highly encourage you to take advantage of the promotions if it's something that fits within your budget and something that you're interested in. Any questions, concerns? Last chance. All right. So you have my email. So going forward, if anything pops up, feel free to ask. But thanks for attending the webinar. Hope everybody got what they were looking for, and maybe found out some new things about Endian or the Connect Platform Management Center. And yeah, all the best, and have a great day, everybody.